Well, okay. Sinatapi, how are you doing? Welcome to Native Wellness Institute's Power Hour. This is Wellness Wednesday, and Nistu Nidoniko Makoyo Sakoyi. It's my second Blackfoot name, and I coming to you live from Siksikatepi, the Blackfoot territory. I'm actually in Browntown. We call Browning, Montana, Browntown, because everybody here is brown. Anyway, Nistu Nidoniko, my English name is Theda Newbreast, and I'm part of a large team. Oh, shoot, we've been coming to you for 148 weeks ever since March 2020 with the Power Hour. So welcome. And I just wanted to tell you, just do some, I guess, some land acknowledgement. I'm in my mom's bedroom. So don't be looking at her stuff. Anyway, yellow flower woman. We have a great big old blizzard going on here, and blizzard and I don't know, 4 feet of snow in my driveway, getting plowed. So I'm in Browning, Montana. They just cleared the roads. The roads from Great Falls to Browning were closed. One to Heart Butte was closed. There was just so many closures, but today everything is plowed. So Kanita, Lavita, Aaron, I see you coming on. So Native Wellness Institute. If you're just joining us for the first time, we've been going for 148 weeks. At the beginning of the pandemic, we started with 7 days a week. We were so resilient. Native Wellness Institute, we just really, when the pandemic started, we really said our people still need uplifting, the positive, productive, and proactive programming for an hour that uplifts. So I'm going to be your guest speaker today, badass auntie. And it's interesting. Yes, I did have a small part on Reservation Dogs, season 2, episode 5. But I also, in real life, I'm an auntie to, at the beginning of the pandemic, I had 64 first cousins, and now I have 60. We're just in so much resiliency right now. We're heading towards springtime, the equinox, and a lot of our ceremonies happen. We have a lot of losses here. We had several fentanyl overdoses just recently with deaths. And so we're doing a lot of healing. We put to rest a lot of elders. But we've just been keeping our own data, part of sovereignty data keeping. For every elder, we lost 67 people during COVID. But for every elder we lost, we had 8 or 9 babies. And you know what is the blessing? The blessing of that is because we couldn't go out. These pregnancies happen where Blackfeet was with Blackfeet, so we have more blood quantum. The funny thing about the pandemic, we elevated all our blood quantum because we couldn't go and out and snag around on the outside. But everybody is basketball season. So welcome. Part of our wellness here is all right. Yeah, I see Spencer. I see Janice Richards. I'm coming to Rapid City. I'm gonna be in Rapid City. Look, working for Little Wound School, Native Wellness Institute, and Little Wound School just signed a contract. And guess who's coming to be my co-presenter? My sister, and shoot, Lori Oxtanikiwao is much of a more genius than I am in many ways, and I'm just proud that it's going to be two sisters doing the training for wellness in the workplace for Little Wound School. So they said about 150 people will be in Rapid City, Janice. So we're moseying over there next week. So we'll be in touch. But I wanted to the subject of today, we're actually in a Zoom right now with groups from Alaska, a lot of our groups from Pomo territory in California, A lot of our group is we're having a healthy relationship Zoom. So I wanted to just share with you what's going on in our Zoom. We have a crowd. I don't know. There's about 40 of us, but we're in dialogue right now about healthy relationships. We're in dialogue about healthy sexuality. We're in dialogue about shoot, we just finished because we had Josh and Shailene. They were really sharing with us, the self-deception box. A box where we deceive ourselves, where we might abuse others with verbally or with our language and communication. And they came up with that our group was talking about cussing, and I'll just tell you, when I was on Reservation Dogs, one of the hardest things is I had to practice saying shit ass. Because I was raised by a mother who she stopped. She's 84 years old, boarding school survivor. And one of the things that she said stops with us is using European cussing. And she said in our Blackfoot language and all of the Indian languages, there's no words for cussing. It's something when you have a colonized mind, when you say F this, F that. My favorite F word is flexibility. I just like go our flow. Anyway, but that's so let me share with you some of the things that been happening in our healthy relationship. We have different age spectrum. We have those under 30 and those over 30. And then we have a lot of 50-year-olds. And so you're talking about different generations and what is a healthy relationship. And the healthy relationship that we were concentrating on with this group is they wanted a healthier relationship with their mother, or they wanted a healthier relationship with their father, because they were realizing, are their grandparents, Jean Tagabon, Levina's helping, Josh, Shailene, the dialogue is so good because we have a lot of really rigorously honest people on this program. And I say honest because they're honest with their clean and sober dates. They're honest with their vulnerable. We just had this big discussion about when we abuse others with verbal language that hurts them in their heart. When we cuss at someone, we're using them as a vehicle. We're using them as an obstacle, or we're using them. And I was really loving what Josh and Shailene were facilitating for us in our discussion, where it's violence. And one of our violence, when we cuss at someone, when we cuss at our kids, when we cuss at our lovers, when we, I think about often I hear women say, when they're in a relationship and someone calls them a dumbass, when you're called a dumbass all the time, when you're belittled, when you're talked down to all the time, that's violence. That's abuse. So knock it off. So anyway, the dialogue was in communication, in our mindset. What kind of mindset do we have? Do we have yesterday the men on our Zoom and Gene, and then last week we had 400 of us in Mesa, Arizona. And one of the things that in the testimony I heard over and over with the men there is that they said that they started healing when they stopped cussing. Every man in his testimony, he said, I just had to clean up my language. I had to clean up my communication, and that there's other ways of speaking to my family, to my children, to my lovers other than cussing at them. And so I know those of you out there, and if you watching movies, or we're listening to songs, we're listening to music, there may be a lot of cussing in that. And is it that we it gets normalized? That we hear that you're a effing bitch, that you're a effing womanizer. I just, ooh, those, somehow they just feel like they have darts, like they just hurt your body, they hurt your heart. So we were just talking about the language that we use. So one of the ahas with our group in deep dialogue, and it's an aha, and when you're healing from intergenerational trauma, is the in intergenerational trauma, if you have a parent who was in residential school, or a parent in boarding school, or you had grandparents, our great grandparents, because now we're healing in 3, 4 generations, is there's three things that Indians have difficulty saying. And like, we can say all kinds of stuff. I just love how our people talk, and I just love how our slang is. Like, here we always have a joke. It's like when you call any of the tribal buildings, they go, "Hello, who's this?" And they start talking. They go, "Ho, ho, ho." What did they say? Ho. What do you want? Ho. They're not even here. They're out on per diem. Eh? Ho. Well, you can call back. Ho. I don't know when they're coming back. Ho. No, everybody's on leave. Ho. Ho. Anyway, that's our, we can say ho. Real Indian. But the three things in intergenerational trauma, and this is about healing, because Wellness Wednesday is always about healing, is that we have difficulty saying, I love you. I love you. Kitsikako, mem. That it was something that was severed in that residential school and in that boarding school experience. Our people will say, I know my dad never told me that he loved me, but I knew he loved me. Or they'll say, I knew my mom loved me, but she never said it. We just heard someone say yesterday that they said, my dad didn't say I love you until 2 days when he was on his deathbed, and then he finally said, I love you. He never said that. And so realize, and this is not to shame or not to hurt anyone, it's just that in healing, we have to practice loving with our behavior and with our words. And so I challenge you, even on, you could say, hey, I love you, Theta, eh? Or, hey, I love you, badass auntie. Or practice on, in your communications, when you're on social media, just tell people you love them. So that's one. The second thing that Indians really, really need to practice saying is, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that I hurt you with what I said. How can we remedy it? How can we start over? What do you need from me in my apology? What do you need? What kind of behavior do you need? I'm sorry. Are we make amends? The yesterday, all of the tears was making amends with our children. How do we make amends to our children for the relationships we were in that may have hurt them? If they had stepfathers or stepmothers that really didn't care for them, how do we make amends to them? How do we make amends to our children when we become clean and sober, or when we transform? We've all transformed during this pandemic. When we're a better person, how do we make amends to our children before it's too late? Telling that when we're sorry, we're really sorry. And I was thinking about, and I love Native Wellness Institute. We recently lost one of our allies, Joe Day in Australia, and they have a term over there. They say, "Yeah, we had a sorry session. We had a sorrow, and a sorry." They even had sorrow. Their apology from the Australian government was called the Sorry Proclamation, where they said, "We're sorry for taking your land. We're sorry for taking your language away. We're sorry for taking your children away. We're sorry that there was a lost generation, and we want to reconcile. We want to reclaim. We're sorry." So really think about that, even the challenge today. And it was hurtful because people were saying, I'm not with my child's father anymore, but I have to show my children that both of us as parents have to say sorry to each other. Sorry it worked out that way. Sorry that I treated you that way. Sorry that I hurt you. But look at what came from us. And you know what comes from a sperm and an egg, right? I mean, a sperm and an egg. Just think, millions of sperm and that egg, fertilization, and a human being, the miracle of a human being comes. So if there's that sorry and making that amends, the best is to have two parents who say, yes, we aren't together, but we are your parent, and we're going to co-parent raising you. We're going to co-listen to you. We're going to co-have experiences. And when you do that, that means the mother does not talk bad about the father. And that means the father does not talk bad about the mother. It's that you share the good things that they do, and that you lift them up, because when the child is looking at their mother and father, they want to emulate and they want to replicate the good things of that father and the good things of that mother. They don't want you calling them down. Oh gosh, oh man, that just hurts when I hear women talking bad about their exes. Shoot, I've even done that. Guilty. But, in front of their children, saying it in front of their children. So, one of the saying, we're sorry, I always ask mothers, please be conscious, because when if you left that man, or he left you, or he abandoned you, if he is gone, or it's just not in the picture, think about how you communicate that to the son. And if the son looks like the father who abandoned, there's an unspoken and an unseen hatred that mother puts in the heart of that child. And that may be why they numb out with using drugs and alcohol. So don't talk. Say, I'm sorry. Say, I'm sorry. God, just to say you're sorry, to say I'm sorry, and you're important to me, and I want to reconcile this, and I love you, and how do we fix this? Starting today, this moment, this time, how do we fix this? Because I want to fix it, because you are important. There was so much dialogue to our children, to our siblings. You have to do this with your children, because otherwise you just repeat the cycles. You just repeat the toxicity. You just repeat the hurt. So, saying, I'm sorry, apologizing. And quickly, my Uncle Gerald that we lost in 2014, he wrote his own eulogy and his own remembrance. But I just remember one of the things he told us: apologize quickly. Please apologize quickly when you have done something. Don't, take the false pride and keep what you had said. Just say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. How can we fix this? I'm sorry. Can we do reset? I'm sorry. That was not good of me. My heart didn't want to rip your heart apart. I'm sorry those words I said. I'm sorry that action that I did. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Whew. Boy, it kind of feels good when you get it out. You feel lighter when you say, I'm sorry. Okay, so number one, I love you. We got to say, I love you. I'm sorry. Now, this is the tough one. And yesterday, in our small group dialogue, the tough one is to ask for help. When you don't ask for help, it's a sign that you're still in the intergenerational trauma and you haven't turned the corner to the healing. When you think, you can handle it by yourself, when you think in isolation, you can do it all by yourself. When you think you in recovery of staying clean and sober, you can do it all by yourself. Woohoo! You're just setting up yourself for more pain. So it's good to ask for help. And yesterday there was a vulnerability. When you're vulnerable, when you feel like there's so much triggering to us in around in our families, especially if they're chaos junkies, there's adrenaline junkies. There's so much around us, even asking for help. So we'll go over how do you ask for help? So one of the things I've been saying, the way I've been saying no to people, because, they want you to do all kinds of things, especially badass aunties solve all your problems, is I say, I'm sorry, but I'll have to ask you, I'm writing in myself a love journal for 100 days. And here it is. This is my self-love. It has questions, today's lesson was look at the breakups as mirrors. Woohoo! Oh my God. And so anyway, I'm writing about, and so that would be asking for help. So when we ask for help, ask someone who has been through a similar situation. Oh, like when I wanted to stop smoking, I would talk to people and I'd say, how did you stop smoking? What did you do? And I remember that was a tough ask because I was the type of person in my addiction that I used the cigarettes to suck in my feelings, like, and it was, it's always so cool just to be sitting with someone with your cigarette and both sucking in your feelings, just talking away, just sucking in your feelings. And when I had relapsed after my divorce and all that pain, I couldn't. The nicotine had gotten me. It was the toughest. I had quit cocaine. I had quit whiskey. I had quit this gambling. I had quit this other stuff. But man, that nicotine was the toughest. And I think it's the toughest because of the sacredness of tobacco. I come from people who have tobacco songs, tobacco planting, pastascan, and even now, in my short 34 and 8 months sober, I still grow my own tobacco. But when I had to ask for help, and I just remember that addiction, that feeling, I was so embarrassed, and I became allergic. So I was smoking and I was spitting up blood from my lungs. So, but I was hiding it. I was spitting up the blood, and I knew I had to stop. And so, addicts we switch addictions. So I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't. I'm spitting up blood, so I'll just chew. So, man, I had these big old cans, big old rolls of Copenhagen, and I was doing it in secret. No, when they look like that, it's not much of a secret. It's not much of a secret. So I used to go into the stalls. This is what an addict guy was. I would go into the stalls, and I'll put my big forefinger and suck that. I'd suck that nicotine, and I'd get that hit. Because, a big old forefinger is about 10 cigarettes, sucking that. I was getting that big hit of nicotine in the bathroom. And then I would get the hit, and then I would go out and I would brush my teeth and pretend like I didn't chew. We're so sick puppies, huh? Anyway, but asking for help. So one day, God, I was just vulnerable because I was spitting up blood and I knew I couldn't get a chew. And I was sweating with Edward and Muffet Little Dog. They were really helping me with my healing from my divorce. And so, sure, I used to sweat with them like twice a week or at least once a week for about 4 years. And I got up the courage, and I was shaking. I can remember that shaking. And I told Edward, I said, Edward, can you help me? Can you help me? I relapse, and I've been smoking cigarettes, and I've been chewing and spitting up blood, and I really need to get rid of that craving. I really need help because I have to stop smoking and I have to stop chewing. And just asking for help. I asked for help, and Edward, he was one of those guys. He don't really just give you the answer right away. They visit, a good 20-25 minutes, and then they instruct you. And he said, when we get in that sweat, I'm going to give you that pipe, and I want you to talk to Ishtabatapiop. And you tell Ishtabatapiop exactly what you've been telling me, because this is between you and God. And you, and then I just like, because he told me what I was supposed to do, and allowing me to touch his pipe, and allowing me, so when we got in there, and this is just asking for help. It's a vulnerable state. But I can remember, and that's why I have the tears. And you guys know me by now. I don't suck them up anymore. As we got in that sweat, and it's dark in there, and it was right, by my place. My brother Iro, he was gifted a sweat there, and we got in there, and he goes, "Okay, Oxtokama," because at that time my Indian name was Oxtokama. Nisto ni Daniko Mokoyo Sokoi. It's my second Blackfoot name now. And he gave me that pipe, and I just remember being on my knees and talking to Ishtabatapio and saying, "No gaikimoket, no gaspomoket." That means pity me and help me. And begging Creator, I asked him, I said, please, I need to stop smoking and chewing Copenhagen. Can you please take this craving away? I've had this craving, and sometimes I feel like I just want to run away and just sit there with my Copenhagen and suck on it. And I cried, and I begged Creator, and after I was done, after the ask, and so that's what we got to say. I love you. We got to say I'm sorry, and we got to ask for help. And so when we got out of there, I had such a relief. I just had this weight. It felt like it was on my shoulders. It was lifted. And then I asked myself, do I need a cigarette? Like, do I need to chew? And I thought, do I throw away all my hidden Copenhagen cans? Because I'm a junkie, okay? I had hidden cans in the Jeep, hidden cans in the truck, hidden cans in the house. I mean, just in case I needed to chew. Anyway, long story short, and I'm just telling you, because this is just a real addict telling you with the real experience that you have to ask for help. And since that day, and that was in 1995, I have never had a craving for a cigarette, and I've never had to take another chew. that has just not happened. The craving was relieved. Estebatapio and Edward Little Dog and Muffet, they helped me with their prayers, and that serious craving has been removed. And but just in a short nutshell, what has happened is I became allergic to secondhand smoke, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing because I wherever I go, I'm not around secondhand smoke. And the beauty is even here on the Blackfeet Reservation at our round hall at Star School, because a lot of we have a bronchial cancer rate of 400 times that of the average American because of the secondhand smoke. So even if you don't smoke, if you're with someone puffing in your face, you get bronchial cancer. So one of the things, so what happens, is now I'm just not around it. And like if I see it there, I actually hold my breath, I put my mask on, and I and I run by so I don't have to inhale any. And so far, it's been pretty good. Even if it's 25 feet away, and I get a little whiff, I get congested because it's that poisonous when you abuse tobacco. So that's asking for help. And I wanted to share with you, just since we have this Wellness Wednesday, I want to share some highlights with you of what happened last week and yesterday. It was so cool because Mike Duncan on Native Dads Network, he's on every Tuesday, 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and he was talking about the 400 of us healing together. So I have to just sit here for a minute because I told my group on the Zoom, I had a dream yesterday, night before last, and the dream that I had was the sacred hoop that white bison has had for, I think maybe even 3 decades, because of a dream in which a hoop with 100 feathers, and one of our men at the conference, he grabbed the feather and cherished his sacredness, and he said, "This feather is the Wi-Fi to Creator. This eagle feather is the Wi-Fi to Creator." And but that hoop has 100 feathers. It even has a condor feather that I think Linda Woods gave them. And it's in a circle, those 100 eagle feathers in a condor, because there's the prophecy of when the condor meets the eagle, and the prophecy that when the indigenous from the South Americas come together with the indigenous of the North Americas is really when our earth will come back to harmony. So in the dream, it was the bottom, there was the sacred hoop, and the legs, the 4 legs, because everyone puts their tobacco in the middle of those feathers, and they pray and they put their tobacco, and then the tobacco was taken in a ceremony and put up to Creator. Now that's been so. Last week, White Bison and Native Dads Network and Native Wellness Institute and Native Fathers, Native American Fathers and Families Association, which is NAFA, Al Pooley and Amy Pooley's group. We all came together, and so the hoop was set up there. So the dream that I had, and I'm just doing some explanation just in case you hadn't been around the hoop, or those of you who didn't get to come to Phoenix. And my dream was there was an animal like a Curlian bear dog, or like a husky that was black and white, that was laying in a circle, like just cozy around the bottom of the hoop, and that it was just like next to the hoop, and it was like and I don't know if it was listening to the prayers of the people that had put all of those eagle feathers there, or all the prayers that were together in the synergy of those 400 clean and sober people at Mesa, Arizona. But in the dream, that animal was curled around the bottom and just snugly soaking up or listening to all those prayers. And it was the most beautiful dream. So so the hoop was the highlight. The hoop, in our giant, we were at the Doubletree Hilton in Mesa, Arizona, but the room was set up, and people began to bring things and put it around the hoop. Some people brought flags. Gene Tagabon, he has this little girl's red dress, and it's to honor missing and murdered Indigenous Native girls and women. But he also had a little shawl. It's just so cute. He had a shawl, and it's orange, and it says every child matters. And so every child matters shawl with this little, so that was by the hoop. And then people started to bring like pictures of their relative who had fentanyl overdoses and died, put it by the hoop. And then people brought in family symbols from their family and put it around the hoop. So it was almost like a giant altar that was in the middle of the room, and that people prayed over and that people cried over. I know our buddies from Phoenix area. There's quite a few sober people down there. They were so like Dwight Francisco, Trevor Foster, and many more. I know Dwight works for the Hope and Healing Addiction Center in Phoenix. They had offered sweats to our participants, and so they had one sweat. We're picking you up at 5 a.m. Guess what? It was overloaded. You could bring your own car. They picked up people at 5 a.m., sweat them. And then that evening, again, they came at 5 p.m. and picked up more people. They was sweating. There was some sweating Indians. So nobody was stink at our conference, eh? They sweat out all the stink. They sweat out all the toxicity. Anyway, they offered the sweats. There was so much, okay, so I'm trying to, so the highlight of the hoop, the highlight of the sweats. The other thing that happened that I just thought was so fantastic in Mesa, Arizona, was that Native Dads Network got there, and NAFA had got there, and NAFA was the host. And our hats go off to Al Pooley and Amy Pooley and their staff from the Native American Fathers and Families Association. But one of the things, it was a highlight, is they brought a beautiful lodge, or some people call it a teepee. And it was about a 15-foot diameter, because we always, in ours, it's 15 foot, 18 foot, 30 foot. But it was about a 15-foot, but it was just a beautiful symbol. And it was the place where you could smudge. So here's this teepee, here, big old Doubletree, and high class. There was high class people walking around with the Europeans wearing suits. Indians, ribbons, we had so many damn ribbons. The ribbons were just, when Indians were walking by, the ribbons would just be flowing off their clothes, in their hair, in their shirts, in their skirts. And when we were dancing, it was just all these ribbons. But that teepee was a highlight. It was the place, they had put smudge in there. It was quiet. I know the San Francisco girls, Aurora Mamea, and boy, the whole gang from there they came, and Aurora, we went, and I go, let's just go sit in that lodge. And so we, there's, of course, they don't have a dirt floor, so I said, let's just go sit in there and pray. And Aurora is real special because she's a descendant of Buster Yellow Kidneys. Only had one biological sister, Doris Wells, and so Doris Wells is her grandma. And her mother and I grew up together on relocation from the Blackfeet Reservation in the San Francisco Bay Area. So Aurora and I, we went out there, and because we had done so much healing and crying, and crying and laughing and healing, crying and laughing and healing, dancing, crying and laughing and sharing, dancing, crying, laughing and healing, dancing, laughing, crying and healing. And so her and we just sat there in quiet silence. And you're with someone special when you can just sit there in silence and just be. Yeah, silence. Yeah, just be. Just paying attention to your breath. And so Aurora and we lit a smudge. I had some Blackfeet medicine. Those of you that I visit with, I harvest my own medicine and I trade medicine. Because when you buy medicine, it has no power. You have to reinvigorate it. Even your IHS medicine, you have to smudge it up. And so we just lit a smudge and we sat there that afternoon and it was just quiet and we talked about our own personal healing. We had our own little sisterhood, our own auntie and niece session. And then people started coming. Some men came, shared their story. A brand new baby came in. Mom was carrying it and she said, I wanted my baby to look up and look at this lodge, look at the teepee poles, look at how comfortable it is here. I just wanted, and she was breastfeeding, and she just brought her baby in, and then other women came, and some left, and then Trevor came, and he was talking about Native American church and where he sits, and so we just started saying prayers, and everybody would just come in and would just say, "You want a smudge?" They go, "Yeah." They come in and say, "Welcome, come in. You want a smudge?" And they'd say, "Yeah." It was like not like yes. It was like, "Yeah." So pretty soon we're just all smudged up, and you can smell. It's like you could smell the cedar, you can smell the sweet grass, you can smell the sweet pine, you can smell. It was just like we smudged all of Phoenix, eh? That's why we had to smudge, especially after the Super Bowl. There was people passed out in the after the Super Bowl, paying $10,000 for a ticket, and they're passed out at the airport with their jerseys still on and stink clothes, eh? Anyway, we smudged them too. We don't want to judge them because we were there once. For the grace of God, there go I, right? So we smudged all the Super Bowl out of Phoenix, and we smudged Pima Maricopa. We smudged, we had Tony Collins. Okay, so another highlight. One of the highlights is that the elders of Phoenix came and shared story with us. Hey, Mike Duncan, you're actually watching me. I always watch you. Anyway, but a highlight, of course, we have our elders, Grandpa Pooley, Al Pooley. I swear we all adopted him because he's that uncle that we all want. He's that dad that we all want because he's just brutally honest. He's just from his heart. He tells you stuff with love. But I want to speak about two elders that were a highlight. Yeah, yeah. Al Pooley, man, he was talking, and I was watching my little niece, Coco. I call it Coco Fresh, and my sister. She hadn't seen Al Pooley, and she was just like looking at him, and she was going, "Dang, dang." She goes, "I like that guy." I said, "Yeah, Grandpa Al Pooley tells it like it is, right? It tells you to be honest. He tells you to develop an integrity. He tells you that it's all about choices and taking responsibility." Man, it was just so cool. But let me speak about one female elder that came. There was so many, but Avis Archambault. And she brought another elder, her brother, John Spence. And Avis Archambault, and for those of you who don't know Avis, she's this healer. She has taught a lot of people to use acupuncture and sound, Reiki. She was the first one. She was the first one to start bringing out an eagle feather in the 1960s and 70s and said, we need talking circles. We need to sit people in a circles with the smudge and bring out that eagle feather and just pass it around, and that's all you need. And she said, if we just go to the circle and we make a safe space and we listen to people's story and their experience, then we will begin the healing. And so Avis, she was there, but she came and she's of the generation they don't like to tell their age. So she's somewhere between 80 and 90. But I say that because she won't say it, but she's just a badass. She was dancing, she was singing, and oh man, and I just, I when you tell on someone, tell good things. As long as I know Avis, she's been sun dancing. So I was thinking, whew. I really started to hang around her in the 80s. She was sun dancing. In the 90s, she was still sun dancing. 2000, still sun dancing. And then I think last year she just sun dancing. and and if you I don't say, are you done with your commitment to sun dancing? She said, no, as long as I can get up and I can pledge for 4 days not to eat food and not to drink water, as long as I can dance for those who can't dance, I'm going to dance. Imagine that. Fasting, praying for the people. And I think that's why Avis is such a good human being. But she came and she sang songs. She came to our healthy sexuality class, and I asked her if she forgot her drum, but we had a drum. And she sang a wolf star song. And it was so beautiful. She sang songs. And even one of the other highlight, I mean, there were so many highlights, is we had cultural night. And what did we do? It's just that we're just so wild and crazy. We had Powwow Soul Train. I swear to God, it was like Powwow Soul Train. But we had like powwow music, and then couples would get up there and they would be kind of doing a little bit of, we call it white dance, but then they would powwow dance. They were grass dancing. They were traditional dancing. They were jingle dancing. And then, sometimes I would say, women, you better get better bras, because, like when you're dancing powwow and it's going boom, boom, boom. You need to get a better bra. And man, just don't be out there jiggling. You need to tighten that stuff up, eh? I know, but they had powwow soul train. And so couples, man, I remember Sergio, Tisha. Oh, I remember Mike Duncan got out. But Avis, she was getting down traditional dancing. And, she's a flamingo dancer, and she used to teach ballet. She was a ballerina, and she was a jockey. She jockeyed horses. So anyway, Avis was getting down. She was so low to the floor, she almost scooped her bottom and just kind of brushed it across the carpet. Avis, oh man, that is just so cool. But I wanted to speak about Avis because one of the things at this conference is we had half of us were men, Native men, indigenous men. Whew. You don't know how powerful that is to have our men stand up and declare that they want to heal, that they're clean and sober, that they served time in jail and they never want to go back. You don't know what it's like when they say, I want to Raise my child, raise my daughter, raise my son in a brand new world where we reclaim our ceremonies, where we teach our children that it's safe to grow, to be gentle, to laugh, to have fun. And so Avis, okay, so this is Avis gets up. She's been writing a book, and she writes poetry. She's really a good writer, but she had never got up and shared about her father. So many people spoke about their father and how important their father was to them, and how they had to make peace with who their father was. But so here's badass. Here's Avis. And so Avis, she has this poem, and but she came and asked for help. I think she asked Coco to come and hold the microphone because she didn't want to be standing there by herself, and she wanted her to hold the microphone while she had read this poem that she wrote about her father. And then, Avis, when I say this, because she came over and she said, Theda, will you come and stand behind me? And I go, of course, of course. So she asked for help. So I just went and I stood behind her, and I didn't touch her. I just kept my hand behind her, like her spirit, her energy, about 3 or 4 inches away. Sometimes I would come close 2 inches, and I just sent her love. Because I seen pictures of her father. I know her brother, John Spence, and we love him too. He's got horse medicine. And so she read, but this poem that she read, and I'll just share a little part, is it was about her dad was a bull rider. And she would watch her dad bull ride, and some people would hide, like especially when they get hung up. And anyway, he was on this one bull, and the bull kicked him and ripped off part of his ear. So ripped off part of this ear. I mean, ripped off. So what does her father do? He takes out his knife and cuts off the ear because it was getting in the way, and he just continues riding. Now that's a badass. Just cut off your ear and just keep riding your bull. But it was about her love for her father, realizing that her father liked excitement, realizing that he loved horses, realizing that he loved rodeo, realizing that he cherished taking care of horses, that he cherished relationships with horses. And so that was her poem. So anyway, I want to share that one. I was looking, oh, hey, did the hour almost pass? I want one more thing before I leave you on Wellness Wednesday. We're here every Wednesday, and I want to put a little plug. Next week, we're bringing Mark Harris. He's been here every February since it's African American Awareness History Month. And our subject is going to be Black Indians, Maroons, half Indian, half African American. And so him and I will be doing the Wellness Wednesday next week. But before I go, the other man that came that really, really helped our group. And it's on Native Wellness site, and I think NAFA's sharing it, Native Dads is sharing it. And others are sharing it, we had Tony Collins come. And for those of you who don't know Tony Collins, he's Thosh Collins' papa. And Thosh Collins Thosh has been with Native Wellness Institute and now married to Chelsea. I think they're traveling today with their 2 children. They've got a new book, but Thosh has been with us since he was 13 years old. And now he's a father, now he's a man. And anyway, this is his papa. But when Tony came, I invite you to listen to, when he came into the room, he said, I could feel the healing energy. And so there was Albert, Albert was emceeing. So I just said, Albert, come here. And this is what you do, women, is you just put men together, and you back up and you leave them alone. Because they worked it out. That's, when Indian men are healing, women, you don't need to fix them. Let them get fixed by other men in other safe places with other men, and then you come and do the forgiveness work. Go to Al-Anon. Work on yourself. Get your codependency, because you ain't going to fix that man. The only person that's going to fix that man is that man. Right? I wonder if Mike's still on here. Say right, Mike. Hallelujah. Yay. So Tony Collins, he told us the significance of Red Mountain. He told us the significance of when they first ran into conquistadors and colonizers. He told us the significance of the power of the land. And he did it all in 11 minutes. 11 minutes. And I swear, but was as he was talking, you know, when you hear men talk like that, when you hear them telling the history of the land, of the language, of the songs, like Tony Collins, you just stop and you listen. You don't stare at your phone. And so I'm telling you, you know, quit staring at your phone and listen to your goddamn elders. Because they're gonna always be here. And so Tony, he told us about when he went up on, he said that he had a bout with COVID and it kind of knocked him off his feet and he was just feeling good again since October. And he said, so I was feeling so good, I just started hiking up that mountain. And he said, and there I was at the top of the mountain. What does Jolene text and says, hey, can you come and talk? You know, sometimes Jolene will, but you know, we always do what Jolene says. And but he thought, by the time I hike down this mountain and I get over, so he started trying to hurry up and hike down the mountain, and he got about 3/4 of the way down, and he thought, nah, I ain't gonna make it. So, you know, like when you can't make those commitments, you remake a commitment. And so he texted her and said, I'll be there in the morning. So he said, because, you know, he had to shower, he had to get cleaned up, and men adorn, you know, when you're going to come and speak to us, don't be looking all shaggy and greasy and sweatpants. Clean up. No, saying that to myself. Anyway, Tony, he said that he had this beautiful dream about the land. He had this, all of the, what they were growing, all the squash, all the things that Chelsea and Thosh were doing. And so he was a highlight. And then when he was done, he got out his gourd rattle. And it's big, you know, like it's a big one. And he got his breath after giving us this indigenous knowledge. And he started singing. And when he's gourd, that ch, 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 when he was singing, you could hear the ancestors. You could feel the energy of the land. And that caused all of us, you know, we went out. I know Mike and the gang went out and they danced on the land. They danced for the land. And all of us, I'm heading up to Lethbridge. I'm going to dance at the International Peace Treaty. It's our big powwow on the Canadian side. I'm going to dance for the land, and I'm going to remember Tony. I'm going to remember the Pima Maricopa. I'm going to remember Avis. I'm going to remember Al Pooley. I'm going to remember Amy Pooley. I'm going to remember Jolene Joseph. I'm going to remember Mike Duncan and all of their staff. And I'm going to dance for those who can't dance. Just as Tony, when he was singing, and that was the highlight. And then our color guard came in. The local color guard came in. Majestically as soldiers, retired the colors. Then they danced out the hoop. And as they were retiring the hoop, they put it in its case. And there, White Bison was ready to drive it back to Colorado Springs. And so I'm going to end there. Native Wellness Institute is the host next year. We'll be announcing pretty soon where the conference will be in Washington or Portland, maybe Hawaii. Badass said, let's have it in Hawaii. No. Anyway, it's kind of the four directions: the north, the south, the east. And so we're inviting you. That will be in 2024. And then Native Wellness Institute, NAFA, Native Dads Network, and White Bison. We're all going to try to go to Healing the Spirit Worldwide, which is in Vancouver, British Columbia, September 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 2023. So with that, I'm just going to say, kita kito matsano. Means I'll see you later, and Quetzalcoatl. We love you very much. Every Wednesday, Wellness Wednesday, Native Wellness Institute is here. Next week, our topic is Black Indians. So, Badass Auntie just says, I love you. I'm kind of greasy, but you know what? It's Indian of Ole. Anyway, I love all of you, and we'll see you next week.